Oh, thank you. So, stand for the pledge. I'll ask Mr. Kendrick, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right, first order of business is for me, JWB, the board chair in recognition. I'd like to read this into the record. All right, it is my pleasure to honor a true champion for children who has chaired our board for the past 2 years, leading with unwavering passion and compassion in shaping the lives of countless children, families across Pinellas County, the Honorable Patrice Moore. During her tenure as JWB Board Chair from 2023 to 2025, Judge Moore helped ensure today's monies were invested for today's kids. The board approved funding for a dozen new programs aligned with JWB's strategic goals, increasing our footprint in early childhood development, school readiness, and the prevention of child abuse and neglect. Campaigns and initiatives like Turbo Babies, preventable child deaths, children's mental health, grade-level reading, and childhood hunger continue to flourish and grow. And JWB's Sleep Baby Safely campaign expanded statewide to prevent infant sleep-related suffocation deaths. Plus, a new position for JWB's Fatherhood Collaborative provides support and gives dads a voice. Her legacy also includes responses to fill gaps and meet emergent needs for children and families. In summer 2024, 6 countywide food drives fed thousands of children when pandemic relief for families ended. That fall, unprecedented back-to-back hurricanes called for relief efforts and investments from JWB when homes, schools, and funded programs were disseminated. This included assistance to hundreds of children and their families who lived at the Standard Apartment Complex. During her reign as board chair, one of the things she is most proud of and will be remembered for are JWB's efforts to assist grand families, including annual resource events to support them in raising their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And as board chair, Judge Moore led us in the transition as one CEO retired and an interim was named, and has laid the foundation for JWB's next 80 years of putting children first. Judge Patrice Moore, you are a true servant leader in every sense of the word. Your leadership and guidance as our board leaves an ineligible legacy for others like me to follow. And we thank you for your compassion and commitment to kids and for making our families and communities stronger. Please join me in recognizing the Honorable Patrice Moore as she passes the gavel, and we honor her with an engraved commemorative one of our own. And Judge, if you could please honor me at the table here.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you, Judge. Okay, next is recognition of the City of Pinellas Park. Karen Burgess.
Good morning, Karen Burgess, Chief Operating Officer. And before I go into my little spiel, I do want to recognize and call up to the podium everyone who's here from the City of Pinellas Park this morning. So, City Manager Bart Diebold, Chief Adam Geisenberger, the Chief of Police, Keith Sable Jr., the Public Works Administrator, Heidi Hugh, the Leisure Services Administrator, Jillian Rose, Community Engagement Program Manager, Christine Britt, Community Compliance Specialist, Richard Rock, Program Manager, Officer Cole, and Lieutenant Adam. I mean, look at this support. Amazing. The City of Pinellas Park is committed to delivering superior, cost-effective municipal services that enhance the quality of life for residents and businesses. Guided by its core values of integrity, professionalism, service, dedication, teamwork, and respect, the city continually demonstrates excellence in community partnership and civic engagement. The dedication is evident in the city's prompt response to emergency situations, and its teamwork shines through collaborative projects with not only JWB, but all local organizations. The city's generosity is exemplified by its provision of facilities, such as the Public Works Building and Performing Arts Center, at no cost for community meetings and back-to-school events and our Grand Families event. The city also played a vital role in COVID-19 outreach efforts, most recently hurricane relief, distributing over 3,000 emergency food and hygiene items to its residents. Consistently, when community partners call for support, the city's response is always, how can we help, and yes. So we wanted to recognize them this morning for their continued dedication, support, with all the work that we do here at JWB to strengthen the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we have a plaque. And we have a plaque this morning that we want to share with all of you. And I also want to recognize, because some of, we have our Mid-County Community Council members. I believe some of you are in the audience, so please stand. Of course, they support the Mid-County community area as well. So thank you. Thank you. Do you want to say anything?
You put me on the spot.
Just a little.
It's all because Yaya asked us, and we just say yes. We don't want to tell her no. But no. Anytime we can help with kids and do anything in the community, it's what it's all about. The familiar faces, you guys know what this is about. It's about kids and helping people out. So we're always here to help. We're always here to partner up, and we just appreciate it. Thank you.
And I'd like to, just on behalf of the board, say thank you very much. The City of Pinellas Park is always there. Anytime we ask them for anything, they step right up to the plate. They help us out with our children. They host the Mid-County Council Christmas party every year at their public utilities facility. You guys are fantastic. Thank you for everything you do for us. Okay, moving on to our consent agenda. Before we ask for a motion on that, Robbie Stivers, you want to have an explanation, please, on item C?
Good morning, I'm Robbie Stivers, Chief Financial Officer of the Juvenile Welfare Board. Chief, thanks for that introduction. Item C on the consent agenda. At your place, we have an interim, I call it an income statement. The formal word is interim statement of revenue and expenses in government accounting terms. And I wanted to clarify that there is in your packet that was initially uploaded. This is an interim statement, so it should be called that. And as an interim statement, we'll continue to make revisions until we do the final closeout for year end. And in that package that was initially uploaded, that statement showed that the neighborhood family centers were overdrawn on their budget, and they are not. That, again, was an accounting thing where we redistributed the money. I've got it highlighted clearly on the form in front of you, the change that shows everybody's within the budget, and that's what we manage to every year. That will continue to change as we get closer to finalizing our financial statements, and then the audit certainly will be the final of our financial statements. Any questions?
Mr. Trunks?
I don't have a question. I'm ready to make a motion to approve the consent items.
Okay, so move. Have a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to our action items. Approve the Amazon corporate agreement. Robbie Stivers, our CFO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's two actions that are associated with this item, and this is an instrument that we will use, subject to this body's approval, to purchase operating supplies for JWB, as well as other purchases that we could make on behalf of our agencies. The first recommended action is for the utilization of a cooperative agreement. It's referred to as Omnia. And this was an agreement that was publicly procured in Utah. And it's not uncommon for these types of solicitations, especially with a big company like Amazon, which is a real volume company that you can procure like-kind things through. Our volume wouldn't be comparable to them. So using a cooperative agreement that a larger organization has procured certainly increases what for us? Well, it increases value for us. We're able to use this not only to, go back up a little bit, I want to focus on the action item there. Not only to be able to get those deep discounts, but also do it in the business section, the business arm of Amazon, which we get certainly even deeper discounts there. This will be a 5-year agreement is what we're proposing. We're estimating the budget each year will be around $125,000. Every year that the budget comes forward for JWB and for this board to approve, obviously, at any year, that can change. And we would certainly highlight if we needed to spend more, if we didn't spend as much, we would spend less on it. But this is kind of the backbone of what we would begin purchasing on. The other thing, too, that I really like about this agreement is it is not an exclusive agreement. So we can still buy locally, we can still shop around, we can still go to other areas or outlets if we're buying paper, for instance. You know, we can certainly find other ways to do that. But this is really the smaller purchases that the organization will make, and that's what this instrument's for. And then item 2, the approval of the purchase order. And we will issue a purchase order for the full 5-year amount with the budget limitations of $125,000 per year. And the purchase order is the instrument that we'll use to make purchases against. So that's how that's used. And again, I want to stress that this is the means and the go-to today for most all companies. You know, Amazon, and I'm sure everybody has used that or seen it used at least. I know my family uses it more than I would want. But it is the means of purchase. This is the commercial arm of it. It gives us maximum flexibility, and certainly this agreement can be amended at any time. So the action items, as I went through, are before you, and action item 1 is to use the cooperative agreement with action item 2 to approve the purchase order. There is a membership fee, which we seem to all pay. In this case, we were able to get it waived for FY26, his first year. But in usual fashion, next year we'll have to pay the membership fee, and it's roughly $499. And again, we don't have to do this in future years. We can, if there's other areas that we can go to or other companies that we can go to in order to buy, this can be terminated at our discretion. So with that, Judge, or Mr. Chief Milligan, I'll refer to you for the vote.
We have any questions for Robbie? Is there a motion to accept?
So move.
We have a motion and a second. We got a second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to our second action item, the approve the budget amendment for Star 76. Laura Pio, our Chief Information Officer.
Yes, good morning. This request I'm bringing before you is to approve a budget amendment for fiscal year '26 in the amount of $94,252. It will come from the assigned fund balance and go to the non-admin technology data analytics line. So as a reminder, last January, you approved a contract with Star 76 to configure our data warehouse and modernize with modern tools and also move it to the Azure cloud. This was an 11-month project with a total of $792,523. This project was divided into 6 phases, and phases 1 through 4 were budgeted in fiscal year '25, and phase 5 and 6 were budgeted in fiscal year '26. While phases 1 through 3 were finished in fiscal year '25, phase 4, which was the movement of our agency data into our data warehouse using direct data uploads, took a lot longer than expected. We have about 30 programs that use it, and each one have unique requirements. And so that was a lot more complex than we expected, and it carried over into fiscal year '26. Of course, we don't pay until the portion or that phase of the project is done. So this essentially means that phase must be paid out of fiscal year '26.
This is the first portion of the budget amendment, and it's to have $79,252.30 moved from assigned fund balance to non-admin IT. This is not an increase in the total cost of the project or the contract. It's just a change of the fiscal year and which fiscal year it will be paid out of. And we do expect the project will finish up next month in December, so we're really excited about that. The second portion of the budget amendment is an increase of an additional $15,000 to be added to the non-admin technology data analytics line, which will also come from the assigned fund balance. This amendment will allow us to do an open PO with Star 76 for ongoing support once phases 1 through 6, the initial project, is complete. We had budgeted $10,000 for this in fiscal year '26, but we feel with the complexities we discovered with that phase 4, that $25,000 is probably more appropriate. These dollars will only be used for support as needed, and within the board memo, you'll see the dollar amounts that we pay, which we believe to be reasonable and that part of the original contract. So the total for both of these amendments is $94,252, which in total will increase the non-admin technology budget from $294,252 to $388,504. And the total for assigned fund balance will decrease from $6,561,334 to $6,467,082. Any questions?
Any questions? We'll set the motion.
So move.
We have a motion, we have a second. Second, any discussion? All in favor, aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
All right, moving on to our presentation, JWB Funded Partner Non-Satisfaction Survey. Dr. Stephanie Reed.
Hi, good morning. Dr. Stephanie Reed. I am CEO and Principal Consultant with Reed Community Consulting. I'm happy to be here to share with you the results and the findings of the Partner Satisfaction Survey. You have a full copy of the report at your table, which goes into much more detail than I will go into today. I'm going to give you some very high-level findings, but if you have questions from what I'm sharing today, please feel free to ask any questions. Thank you. All right, so I will share with you, as I said, the purpose for the survey, the methodology that we use to conduct the survey and do the analysis, the results, and then a few discussion points that were found from the survey. So our purpose was to conduct an anonymous survey to understand the level of satisfaction among the partners, the funded partners with JWB, with its internal operating areas, specifically administration, contracting, finance, and evaluation. Our methodology was very detailed, but I'll just share the high level that the partners received the survey and they recorded their responses. They printed those out and mailed their finished survey back to our firm, Reed Community Consulting. When we received those surveys, we conducted a qualitative thematic analysis. It was done independently by 2 researchers, and we came together to discuss the findings and to develop themes in conjunction with one another. This is a list of the survey questions that were included, that were emailed out in the survey. I'll just read through them really quickly. Overall, how satisfied is your agency with its working relationship with JWB? And that was a Likert scale question scored from 1 to 5, ranging from very satisfied to very dissatisfied. Number 2, how would you describe your agency's relationship with JWB? We asked them to be specific, and these were open-ended questions. Number 3 as well, how would you describe your agency's working relationship with your assigned JWB team and management? Number 4, is there anything your agency would like to see JWB do differently? Number 5, in what practices, processes, or activities has your agency experienced struggle with JWB? And we provided them with a list of areas that we thought they might have had struggle with, and also thinking about the ways that JWB interacts with their partners. We wanted to hear specifically how they felt about those areas, but we also offered an opportunity for them to provide another example of an area where they experienced struggle if it wasn't listed there. Number 6, we asked them to reflect on question 5 and to select 3 of those areas where they felt there was the most needed improvement by JWB, and for them to give very specific examples of what those improvements should look like. And then number 7, we asked, as always, is there anything else they would like to share that we did not include in the survey that they wanted to share about their experience? So in the results, we had a total of 38 surveys. There are 55 total funded JWB partners. 38 returned their survey by the due date was originally like September 12th, but we accepted everything through the 23rd, just giving time for snail mail to get to us. And we actually had a very, very good response rate of 69%, which is considered excellent for open-ended surveys. And the majority of the questions were open-ended and required them to give very thorough and thoughtful responses. This response rate to us reflects confidence in the results of the survey, and that the respondents were very engaged and they were invested in the outcome. And so they took the time to give very thoughtful responses. The data are representative of the partners' experiences and viewpoints as well. We consider that to be because of the response rate. So now for the results. The first question, again, was the Likert scale question, asking them how satisfied their agency is with its working relationship with JWB. 53% responded they were very satisfied. 30, I can't see that far. Let me open my notes, sorry. Did it say 30? Okay, I should look at this screen, thank you. 37% responded they were satisfied, 5% dissatisfied, and 5% were blank. 2 were blank. So I'll explain those. There's one agency who actually did not include a Likert scale response. They just left it blank. And there was one agency that responded that they were very dissatisfied to that Likert scale question, but in their open-ended responses, all of their responses indicated that they had extreme satisfaction with JWB and its services. So we didn't feel it was reflective of what they responded to in their questions. So we left that Likert scale response out of the analysis, but all of their open-ended responses we did include. This is question 5, where we asked about their areas of struggle. So I'm listing all of the areas of struggle that we included, as well as the other in the bottom. And you can see in the first column there, or the middle column, the count of partners that indicated for each area of struggle, how many said that that was an area of struggle. Overwhelmingly, data systems was an area of struggle, specifically the Flex system and the upload processes associated with that. And the second highest is valuing your agency as a partner. And then the third highest being, there was a tie between timeliness and communication. And in the last column there, we asked in that number 6 question if they could identify from the areas that they had struggles in, their top 3. And so that last column identified as a top area for improvement. Again, Flex system was the area that was most identified as an area for improvement in their top 3. And then many had none, so 8 said none, but the next top areas were communication and innovation. There's a star next to innovation just because there was one organization who indicated innovation as a top area of improvement, and that number is higher than the count of partners that indicated it, only because they didn't choose it as an area that they had a struggle in, but they did speak to it in their identified areas for improvement. And so we analyzed the data. 2 researchers, myself and one other partner, analyzed the data, developed codes independently of each other, and then we came together twice to discuss those codes and to get alignment on the codes, to name the codes and to name the themes in association with those codes. And so you can see in the first column under themes, these are the themes that were developed from the analysis, and then the related codes that applied to those themes. So the 5 themes that came out of the analysis were around the relationship specifically with JWB as an agency overall, the relationship with JWB teams that are internal to the agency. There's a need for increased collaboration, the challenges that exist with processes that the partner shared, and there's a need for improved communication. And then associated codes with each of those you can see in the second column. So this is a thematic map that really outlines the connection between each of those. This is a way of showing how each theme is aligned or associated with the codes that were found that were shown on the previous map, on the previous page. So the themes of processes, collaboration, JWB teams, JWB as an agency, and communication, you can see the specific ways that the codes are aligned with those themes. So there are several codes for each of these, and when you go into the report, you can see a lot more detail of what the explanations were, and there are actually some very specific quotes for each of these, but I'll go through the themes at a very high level and share one or two quotes for each of them so you can see what those examples were. So when discussing the relationship with JWB as an agency, 90% of partners are satisfied with their relationship with JWB. So it was satisfied, meaning satisfied or better, satisfied and very satisfied combined. So 53% are very satisfied. 44% of partners view JWB as a collaborative, strategic partner and supportive of their efforts. However, there were several partners that viewed JWB as paternalistic, impersonal, having shifted their relationship over the past decade with their partners. In discussing relationship with JWB teams, 84% described their relationship very positively, saying that their teams were very responsive, they were flexible in the way they were able to work with them. There was a professionalism between the partners and the teams, that teams were very supportive, and it was an enjoyable experience to work with the team. However, there were several partners who also expressed challenges with working with teams, expressing that there were sometimes unsupportive relationships. And some of the ways that they describe this is that their agencies were impacted by turnovers that were happening, specifically managerial turnovers that were happening, that impacted their relationships with teams, and then also teams lack an autonomy sometimes to just move forward with things that they needed answers on. But more often, they responded that they had a very enjoyable and positive relationship with their teams. Partners expressed that there was a need for increased collaboration. They spoke positively about their collaboration and were grateful for the relationship over the years. When analyzing this, analyzing several of the areas, especially that list of areas of struggle, the comments that were provided show that there was very strong overlap among valuing agencies as partners, respect, listening, innovation, communication, and collaboration. The responses show there was overlap and that those specific areas aligned with collaboration strongly. However, jointly, these areas were also described as areas of struggle for 32% of partners. Some examples are partners didn't always feel valued for the expertise that they brought to the table in working with JWB. They also wanted to be involved. They wanted to be more involved and invited to the table to contribute to solutions that the community is facing. A couple of examples were around the COVID pandemic and being able to respond to the community collaboratively as partners, and then also in co-creation of strategies to work in the community. Some felt there was a lack of trust between their agency and JWB. They were concerned about some experiences of micromanagement and sometimes having an adversarial relationship. And then there was a funded partner who expressed that they thought that the community would benefit from more collaboration at large, so with the community at large, not only with the funded partners, but also with non-funded partners who were working in the area of serving families and children. The next theme is challenges with processes. 74% of partners, so this is those 20 people that checked off, 20 out of 38 who checked off that Flex was a struggle or processes were a struggle. 74% indicated struggles with Flex and upload processes. Many did indicate that processes were improving for them, so that was a positive. But in addition to that, 37% indicated that they felt processes were rigid, and those processes were more around budgeting and budget amendments, and needing more flexibility for those budget and finance processes. Around Flux, they expressed just needing training, needing a training manual, more program-specific training for their agency, so they knew how to use Flex specifically for them. Also having involvement in implementation of data systems so that the issues that they were facing could be fixed before they had to actually use it for responding and reporting. One other thing I will mention, there were a few agencies who talked about the ability to recoup funding lapses. So they felt that sometimes it was unfair that they would have a lapse in funding in 1 year, and then their new funding amounts were not considering changes or adjustments that had happened. If maybe the funding lapse was due to a staffing shortage or something like that, they weren't able to recoup those funds. And the next theme, the final theme, partners felt there was a need for improved communication. They identified communication as a struggle among 24% of the partners. And specific areas that they shared for improvement included having more respectful communications between the partners and the teams, having additional methods of communication. And this is in regards to phone versus email, so having the ability to pick up a phone and call someone and getting a quick answer to their question versus having to wait for an email, which sometimes would delay their ability to provide quick responses, especially if they were up against a deadline. Having improved timeliness in receiving responses from JWB teams, and also having the ability to have increased engagement with the JWB CEO. And that lends itself back to early on when they talked about there was like this decreased collaboration and more hierarchical shift in the way that JWB interacts with the partners, and that shift that has happened over the last 10 to 20 years. So in summary, partners are generally satisfied with their relationship with JWB. Overwhelmingly, 90% responded that they are satisfied. JWB is viewed by partners as uniquely positioned to shepherd community collaboration on children and family issues. And so they want more of that interaction so that they can co-collaborate to move those efforts forward. The data from the analysis and from the surveys show that partnerships will be strengthened as those areas that are closely aligned with collaboration are strengthened, so specifically those areas around valuing partners, communication, those 5 that I listed. If you improve those areas, you're going to improve the feelings of collaboration among the partners. Partner involvement in process changes also may contribute to an enhanced sense of collaboration and partnership, so that was specifically around Flex or other systems or other changes that happen with JWB. Involve the partner so that they feel they're involved in the process and they have clearer understanding, but also input into the process. There is a small segment of the funded partners, as I mentioned, that have experienced significant struggle. It wasn't an overwhelming amount, but it was very clear in the surveys that we received. We can't say a whole lot about them because intentionally we did not ask for identifying information or for any demographic information about who they served or about budgets or anything, because we wanted that anonymity in the survey. But I think the information is there in the report. You can see the areas where they feel that there are struggles, but that is a significant limitation of this analysis, is not having that demographic or descriptive data to be able to say more about who is struggling and in what ways that they're struggling. So this concludes the presentation. I definitely want to open it up to any questions that you have.
What is the time period, or was there a time period? Because I see that the first emails went out in September. So when they were doing the evaluations, what was the time period in which they were given? Was it any involvement with JWB, or was there a time period?
It was 2 weeks that they had to return the survey. And the surveys, I will say that just having the ability for them to receive it by email, type in their responses and print it out was an effort for them. It was an extra effort for them to do that. So, but they did have 2 weeks to respond to the survey and return it from the time that I emailed it to them.
And what period were they evaluating, I guess is my question.
They didn't have a specific period. It was just their experience with JWB
Understood.
overall. Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Trunks?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Dr. Reed, thank you very much. Very appreciate your presentation, and definitely will read this and let Mr. McCurrick know if we have any additional follow-up questions. But I wondered, in terms of the non-responses, was there, I know it was anonymous, so I'm not sure what level of detail you had about, you know, who responded or who didn't, but I'm wondering if we could identify any commonality of partners that may have felt less inclined to respond than others, if there was any commonality there, or if it was just random. I don't know if we can figure that out, but it would be good to know from my perspective if there was a segment of our community that for some reason did not feel like they wanted to respond.
Yeah, so we can't really say for sure who didn't respond because we intentionally wanted it to be anonymous so they could feel free to respond openly about their experience. I can share, though, that I did have several emails and phone calls for partners who were concerned about their anonymity and concerned about how open they could be in their responses. They said, you know, sometimes because we asked for specific examples could be sometimes telling. Mm-hmm. And so they were concerned about how specific they could be and still maintain that anonymity. But they, just by virtue of them calling and emailing, I could tell that they were really invested, but I would not be able to know if the same folks who reached out actually responded or didn't respond, because we didn't ask for any descriptive information.
And just out of curiosity, how much did the whole survey process cost?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's about $15,000.
Okay. And I'm assuming, and I'll defer to Mr. McCurrick, but there will be follow-up and implementation on changes, best practices as a result of Dr. Reed's findings.
I was going to wait till after all the questions were asked, and then I'll talk about the areas in which that we're following up and actually making changes as we speak.
Any other questions? Shia?
Yeah, so kind of piggybacking on what Brian was saying, my concern was when you were showing the area of struggle, and I do think that there's probably a lot of providers, and even the ones who participated, who might be hesitant to be completely transparent, especially if they have any struggles, given that this is funded providers of JWB. So I feel like the results overall, by nature of that, are going to lean a little more to the positive. People are going to watch how they say things, that sort of thing. But on the grid you had that showed the areas of struggle, data systems was the highest. The very second highest was valuing your agency as a partner. And so I think that is kind of a great concern to me, that stands out as the second highest issue, you know, given that. So I will be interested to hear, you know, what improvements you're thinking of and all that, Mike. So thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Mr. McCurrick?
Again, Dr. Reed, thank you for your work. And also I want to thank Melissa Rutland for actually bringing it up, to having it done. And interestingly enough, the person who asked her, I won't say his name or her name, but they actually told me that they asked her to have this survey done. So I thought that was very interesting. So starting with the increased access to the CEO, I can't talk about what was previously as far as the CEO's approach to an open door. Mine from day one has been an open door process. I've actually started with listening sessions, which we've advocated for, and we were able to make some, I thought, improvements, not only improvements, but supported some of the organizations. during the time when there was budget issues that were coming out. I am also working on right now to reinstate the CEO roundtable. That'll start in January. We're going to start with our NFCs as the first round, and then the next round will be to all funded providers to get their input, to understand better how they're feeling, and how we can become a better partner along the way. I think as we've talked about in the past, I've started with staff, and by the way, staff has gotten this report, and we've talked about it, and we're honing in on each organization on how they better improve their communication skills with the providers. But what I'm really looking to do is to really be able to build a synergy across these organizations. We're not always going to be on the same page. We're not always going to agree on everything, but we have stringent processes and things that we need to follow that were set up by the board. And everyone has to understand those, and we need to help better explain those and support the efforts in areas where their boards may be having issues, some of which is in the area of fundraising, as an example, because we are not the full funder of many of these programs, but some programs we actually fund more than we should, and so we're working on those. The other part of increased communications, again, policies, procedures would become more flexible. We're working with the staff that they start conversations with how do we help each other, not no, and how do we work more effectively together and understand the issues that each of the funded providers are coming into, and how, again, we will never always get to a yes answer, but we'll do our best to try to figure out how we can do these things. And then when we do come into areas where policy doesn't allow us, legalities won't allow us, we'll be very open and comment on that and make sure that everybody's aware of the issues that we deal with. As far as increased training and education on the flex, I think everyone knows that when you first implement a system, there's always some struggles to get comfortable with, changes in the process, getting able to be more comfortable with it, not to mention the change is always a stumbling block in the early stages of this. And that's what it is with Flex. Flex is really an early stage system rollout. There are bugs. We're working on those. We're working through that with the funded providers that are using it, and we're trying to enhance the process and speed up the process so it's easier for them to provide the data that we need and are looking for. And then finally, increased innovation. The staff is focused on that now. We've really positioned the staff to really think about how do we do this better? How do we create the opportunities to really focus in on how we work more closely with our funded providers? How do we need to think about the most important piece, and that's servicing the children of this community? The second part is the taxpayer dollars that are doing that. So staff is really has been, and the leadership team has been guiding staff to work more closely and more effectively and focus in on the real needs of our children, the community, and the providers that provide those services. Those are the key areas in which we're starting. Yes, Judge?
Good morning, everyone. I did have a chance, as Ms. Reed was going through there, and I read some of the comments. I think it's going to be very important that our partners can have a voice, and that they don't feel that if they come to the table, it's going to be punitive. Who wants a report that tells you everything is glowy and hunky-dory and all of that? We do need the truth. We need the truth so that we know what we need to do better. I don't want them to feel that there's a standard for them and then there's an internal standard. And I think someone may have alluded to that or felt that way, even if it's not the case. And so for me, it's very important that voices are heard, even if we can't tell them yes. I want them to be able to have a voice.
Judge, we've started that process and we'll continue that. We've had numerous conversations where we had to say no. And not because we wanted to, it's because we couldn't. And we'll continue to work in that process. We'll continue to really hone it in. And we need to be better communicators, and we need to be better listeners in this process with our funded providers. And I expect that as we move forward with the CEO roundtables and then on from that into look at ways we can better implement programs that are more effective and understandable. Again, we can not always say yes, but we're going to at least be able to explain why.
Stretcher.
Yeah, I think all feedback is good feedback, and when you send out an anonymous survey and you're essentially eliciting
what are the problems, right? And so there can be a tendency sometimes to read into that too much. When you look at 90% of the respondents on an anonymous survey said they were very happy or satisfied. I think statistically, to me, the data system is the biggest thing that sticks out. And I wonder if it's not just the functional side of it, but if it's explaining the why behind why this data is needed so that we can be transparent with the tax dollars and make sure we're getting a good return on these investments. And I would, look not at just the technical side, which I know Laura just recently told us is working on, but also the why behind why these things are needed so that we can evaluate whether these programs are necessary.
Totally agree with you, Kevin, and I will say that both Karen and Robbie and their staffs have really been focusing on that area. It's important that we provide that data and that information to the providers. Again, some of which has not been, we've just gone through an NFC issue as an example. It wasn't something that we wanted to do, but we had to do it for the sake of the children, safety as children, and for the community and the dollars being spent. We've spent a great deal of time, and I'll use that one as an example. That is now finally coming to an end. It is working. The city of Clearwater has accepted the process and are going to take it over. They've already begun their due diligence on looking at staff and who will continue. We've stayed with it throughout that. Sarah Malo has painstakingly stayed on top of it with us to help them. The one thing that we found out during this process as part of the listening and understanding is clearly boards need help. Boards need to better understand what their roles are, what their how they best participate and communicate with the community, and how they best ensure that the parents and the children that are using their services are being serviced properly and that they get the biggest value for the funds that are being spent. It came even to the point where the current CEO of the organization struggled with the fact that she didn't realize that she had to call the payroll company to let them know to pay people. Robbie stepped in, Karen stepped in, helped with the payroll company, made sure it got done, and everyone was paid on time. So those are just kind of anecdotes, if you want to say, of things that we need to really stress on. I'll be looking as well more closely with the NLC to help us with that, to help us provide consulting and support to boards. In fact, at the the first roundtable we'll be having with the NFCs, I've asked NLC to participate so they can hear the issues, and let's see if they can help support those boards.
Ms. Chia?
Yeah, I do have a concern, Mike, because you mentioned this full report went to all of the staff. And as some of the narrative comments in there, they might be able to discern or maybe wonder which provider that was, or have some insight into that sounds like this particular provider or whatnot. So as a compliance professional, I would like to see maybe a training reminder go out about the code of conduct and that there should not be any retaliation based on their participation in this survey. I just think that
Absolutely
would be
accepted.
a prudent step.
That was part of the front end step, that each of the leadership team had conversations directly with their staff before we gave it to them. And we walked through it, and each of the leadership team members have spent time with their staff going through the reports to make sure they understand, and it is very clear there's no retaliation that will be had at all. It won't be accepted should that happen.
Ms. Malo?
I was going to save it till we get to the informational items, but as Mr. McCurrick mentioned, I did integrate myself into the Clearwater Family Center, and I've been a board member for some time now, and the amount of dedication that Karen and Robbie put into that project was just absolutely outstanding. They worked daily, kept me very informed and updated what was going on, and tried to assure the staff and the parents of the staff in particular, because that was where my concern was with what those children was, as to what was going on. Colleen helped us with that as well, to try to do things right. But what became apparent to me is that some of the agencies that we work with are not as sophisticated. I think that JWB is really the gold standard on how you operate a professional organization, and some of our partners are not at that level.
So just the information that they gave them and finding out the lack of knowledge that some of them had on how to run an operation. But just really want to commend Robbie and Karen. You know, I've been on the board for a long time, and you see a lot of things at the board meetings, but you don't see that hard work and dedication. And they were just absolutely driven. The amount of time that that project consumed was really a lot. I didn't count the number of emails, but I did end up making a subfolder for it and the amount of phone calls for it, because they were very involved. And, you know, one of the most important things that they worked on was making sure that the staff was paid, which became a very complicated process. And I just want to commend them both for their hard work and dedication. If this is any example or insight to how you work with agencies across the board on a daily basis, I'm just godsmacked. I mean, I just was really impressed with the level of professionalism, kindness, and compassion, and the intent to get the information to the right people to sort of reduce the stress and have a better understanding. And I think that is part of the problem, and I'm glad for this roundtables with the CEO. And I know that there's been some training sessions, even I tried to get on it, on, you know, what you do for succession plans and how do you run a board meeting and what do you have to do at the board meeting and those board meeting minutes being reviewed. Some of the agencies just don't have any level of expertise in that, and so it can get really messy. And their ability to clean that up was just really impressive. So I was really impressed with the level of dedication and the communication that they had, not only with the partnership, but with, you know, my concern was for the children and the families that were using and utilizing that service and the staff, and they were very compassionate. You know, I don't know how many trips Karen and Robbie made over there, but it was a lot, and very responsive to their needs. So I just want to really appreciate and publicly acknowledge the work and dedication that they put into that particular project, and I suspect that that's happening across the board with all of our agencies.
Brian, before you mention, I just wanted to follow up. You got an opportunity, Sarah, you get an opportunity to see firsthand exactly what this team does. They're very compassionate, they're very focused. That was not a simple situation. You had people warring factions, trying to decide who's in charge, and gone through a lot of things that you typically wouldn't expect. But both Robbie and Karen both spent the time, they focused, their teams focused in on how to make it simpler, how to try to smooth out through this process, and to get to the right people to support this. So getting over to the Clearwater, getting Clearwater support. We had multiple sets of meetings with the team. Maddie Williams stepping up, taking over a portion of it as well. And the valued a part of this is both organizations want to expand their access. They want to expand the participation and to help more children. And I think that's a tribute to both Robbie and Karen as the work that they did.
Ms. Trunks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just not to go into this whole conversation, but there was something that was triggered in my mind that I'd talked to Attorney Flynn about regarding support, particularly for accounting for our neighborhood family centers. And I believe we used to have an ASO program, and whether we want to bring that back. So I think that would be something to be put on a future agenda to talk about. Maybe we have staff have some thoughts on that. I remember we had an issue with an NFC, gosh, probably 12 years ago. And we implemented an ASO program after that. And I think it was helpful. I'm not sure why we got away from that or what ended up happening. But on top of that, I just want to say a profound thank you to our public defender, Sarah Malo, because I know how just hands-on and like you took that on and you made sure it was right. And there are so many people that were able to get paid and, you know, not miss their paychecks. And, you know, for you to take that on as a volunteer, I mean, that's huge. So as a Clearwater person, I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time out of your already incredibly busy public service schedule to go down there and get, you know, into the nitty gritty of what needed to be done to make that situation right. And I very, very much appreciate that.
You know, and I just want to add to that again. Sarah got the brunt of things right in the beginning. People complaining, people think she was overstepping, but everything she did were valuable to the community and to the team. And when they finally realized it, that settled down. But you know, I again appreciate Sarah. what you did. Appreciate the fact that you didn't explode with some of those things that are happening around you. But you and Karen and Robbie and teams really did a yeoman's job, a fantastic focus on it, and we're coming to the end. And we'll be moving forward, hopefully, with a much better program, a much better outreach to the families and the children of the community.
Okay, any other questions? All right, seeing none, we're gonna move on to our discussion item, JWB CO search.
So my name is next to it, and Ms. Chia asked that it be put on the agenda, and so I'm going to just turn it over to her.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I asked for this to be put on the agenda because when we had some discussion and motions last time, the entire board wasn't here. And I thought it was very important to have this discussion with the whole board here. Y'all know where I stand on this. I think it's our obligation to have a fair and transparent process that, of course, Mr. McCurrack is able to participate in. But I think that to delay that or to not do it at all, just have a vote for him to become permanent, is not doing the right service to the public and to that very high-level government position. And so I would just like to hear from, other members of the board on that.
Ms. Muller?
Thank you. So I'd like to kind of back up a little bit and talk about the history of how this has gone. At the initial provisional appointment, Mike McCurrack's name came up, and I had some concern over that because the governor had removed him from the position that he was in, and obviously the governor funds my budget, so I wanted to make sure what the reasoning behind that was. And so I wanted to assure myself that there wasn't anything nefarious or anything going on that. And so I vetted that very heavily and found out that it was just a matter of timing and that there was no animosity or there wasn't any action on Mr. McCurrack's part that required or caused the removal of him from the board. It was just time for him to move on to a different position and to allow someone else to take that spot. And so I vetted that very carefully, and I think that's important to understand from the background of it. I think that the initial provisional appointment came very quickly, but initially I was contacted by Bernie Jacques regarding a candidate, Glenn Gilzine, and had talked to Mr. Jacques, Representative Jacques, about that and was willing to meet with him, and then the board formed a search committee. And so at that time, I probably should have consulted with Attorney Flynn whether or not it was appropriate for me to reach out to him. But I did back off of that and did not reach out to him because I felt like a search committee had been formed and that it was more appropriate that the search committee do that. And then we had a meeting where you're indicating, and I had made a motion to dissolve the search committee because I felt that really what needed to happen was that transparency to me is very important too, and that's why I'm disclosing these things and these conversations, and was recently contacted again by Representative Jacques about what was going on with it. And so I just want to make it clear that my intention in dissolving the search committee was not to delay, hinder, or to put anybody in a better position to receive the appointment of the permanent CEO. We had talked about initially when we appointed a provisional CEO the importance of having continuity through the legislative term, particularly when property taxes is an issue, and that is the way JWB is being funded. So to me, that made sense to wait until after session and have a provisional CEO appointed during that time period so that when representatives were talking to the representative from JWB, that they knew that there was some continuity in that. Based on the way things have been going, I am sort of retracting from the position that we need to wait until after April. I think, and I shared this with Representative Jacques and his concerns about the transparency of it. I think that we're going in a very bad direction. As I mentioned earlier, I think JWB has always been the gold standard on how an organization should run. I've always been incredibly impressed by the way that they follow rules, the way that they conduct business, the way that they conduct the organization. But I do think transparency is key. And the direction that this is going I think is sort of casting a negative tint on JWB and causing some animosity and some problems. And so what I shared with Representative Jacques that I thought would eliminate it was, to open it up. I feel like all of the board members, I'm for the little guy, I'm the public defender. I like David and Goliath stories where the little guy stands up to the big guy. So my dad told me life isn't fair, and so I tried to prove him wrong and say, well, it's not fair, but it should be just. And that really is at the core of my professionalism and at the core of my heart and the way I try to conduct myself. What I shared with Representative Jacques is that I thought it would be appropriate to open it to any candidate that wanted to put their name in the hat, and that resume come to all of the board members, and that the board members review that, and if they have a particular person that they think this is the guy or the gal that really we would like to see in that position, that they could then make a motion and have that person considered by the board. We don't always, some of the things that the board does I don't agree with. For example, the Clearwater Family Center, the vote was to terminate that. I understand that better, although I voted against it. But I think the best way to do this is to, I had talked to Representative Jacques about doing it after the legislative session, but considering the direction that this is going, I think sooner is probably better than later. And so what I would like to see is the job advertised. Anybody who would like to put their name in the hat, put their name in the hat, that resume come to all of the board members for review, and that we set a date certain to resolve this issue that has been ongoing for some time. If anybody at that time sees a candidate that they think is viable and that they would like to support, put that to the board and have a vote. I'm not really making a motion at this time. I don't know if it's appropriate to do because this is a discussion item, but at some point what I'd like to do is make a motion to advertise for a permanent CEO, have the resumes go to all of the board members, and set a date certain to sort of end this limbo that we've been in. And I think, my initial thoughts were wait till after session, but the direction this is taking, I think that it needs to happen sooner rather than later. So that's what I would like to see. I think that makes it transparent. Like my dad said, things aren't always fair in life, but I think that's a just way to do it so that anybody who's interested in it has the opportunity to put their name in the hat. Everyone on the board has an opportunity to review that. And then if there's a particular candidate that the board member feels strongly about, that they have the opportunity to bring that to the board or put that as a person that they would like to see as the CEO.
Mr. Strunks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I could not agree more. That was so eloquently said, Madam Public Defender. And Ms. Chia, thank you for raising this. I was one of the board members who was not able to be here at the last meeting. I had a public hearing in Dunedin for a client. Our meetings are usually on Thursdays, and that meeting happened to be on a Wednesday, which was unusual. So that's why I was unable to be here. I think it's 100% clear that every single person on this board wants to have an open, public, transparent process for this position where any person who wants to apply will be able to apply. I don't think I'm misspeaking for anybody on the board. And I think there's a couple things that, I don't want to focus on the past, I want to focus on the future, but just a couple things. I mean, our former CEO retired without a whole lot of notice to us and did so the day of a meeting, but after the meeting. So it kind of put us the farthest away from meeting again, a regular scheduled meeting. So, not criticizing Beth, but the timing of that was difficult to start the discussion because we can't talk to each other outside of this meeting for the Sunshine Law. So, and there's a lot of us. There's, I think, 11 of us, right? So I think that that kind of started us out in a weird kind of way. And so that's not to make an excuse for the board. I will also say, I've been observing local governments for 30 years. And one of the worst things that city councils and county commissions can do is revisit decisions that they've already made over and over and over and over. So I agree with Ms. Malo. I would like to see the application process opened. I'd like to see it opened up soon, very soon. I think we need a job description. I know that that search committee worked really hard and put a lot of time in. I don't know if they developed a job description. I don't know, what their recommendations were, because I wasn't at that meeting where we discussed the search committee. I don't think we need to reconstitute the search committee. What I want to do is start the application process. And so if that means that at the next board meeting, we approve a job description and approve a time frame, I would like to see the application process open through early Q1, like midway through Q1, maybe February 1st, February 14th, Valentine's Day. And I'd like to see that I'd like to see that position filled by March 1, March 15 at the latest. The other thing I will say, that, and I'm 1000% committed to this, our board unanimously appointed Commissioner Latvala to be the chair of the search committee. And he is unable to be here with us today. He deserves to participate fully in this process. And I mean that from a vetting perspective, the whole thing. So I am not gonna support a time frame where I'm not comfortable. Like, I don't want him to come back and his first meeting is, okay, here's your two choices, right? I think he deserves to be in that process. He put a lot of time into this process. And I'm confident, God willing, he's gonna be back sooner than later. So we can evaluate that depending on what happens with that. But I'm confident that if we put out the application at the next board meeting, and then have this process where maybe the applications are due February 1st, February 14th, whatever, and then we set a goal to hire in March, I think that's a fair process. I'm not gonna make a motion to put that time frame in. I think what my motion would be right now is I would move to direct Ms. Flynn and staff to develop the job description based on whatever the search committee had previously done, not recreate the wheel, but whatever the search committee had done, bring that and create a time frame for the application process, and bring that back to us for approval at the next board meeting.
So you're making a motion?
Yes.
Would you accept a gentle amendment to your motion to put actual time dates on that is
Sure.
what I would like to
Melissa's
do?
next, yeah.
And
I'm sorry.
I have a gentle addition as well. I agree with everything that's been said, and based on being on the search committee and some of the things that we've talked about, not the whole board has been privy to, Mary Grace was involved in the original process the last time, and if we're gonna take that direction, I'd like her to be involved in managing it, because it seems, we've talked to her, she's willing to do it. The reason we had tried to bring in a search committee before was to offer services that she isn't able to do because she's not here fully. But I think if we're just opening the search process on accepting applications on our website, that's something certainly she can handle. And then if it becomes something she can't handle, we can deal with it at that point. But I would like to see applications open up maybe January 1st. And I nominate Mary Grace to handle the process and bring us the candidates to vet from there.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree with having Mary Grace handle that process. And I think that's a good compromise, because I know one of the big controversies was, are we gonna hire a $30,000 search committee? If so, or I'm sorry, search company, if so, which one? Mary Grace has done this. She knows the organization. She knows, how we do things. And so I think she will absolutely be able to do an open, transparent, accessible process that also doesn't cost us an arm and a leg. So if you're looking for timeframes, I would say, let's come back at the next board meeting to approve whatever it is, the process, but I'd say the time frame should be from the next board meeting, whenever that is in December, through Valentine's Day, roughly, February 14th, February 15th. And then the goal would be for the board to possibly vote to appoint the position in March.
If she can do it.
So can I just interject as some observations from being counsel at the search committee and at the board? So we do have a job description, and the committee did talk about some things. It's pretty similar. There would be some additions that the committee had already discussed. So of course I can wordsmith that in conjunction with Mary Grace to bring that back to the next board meeting. I will reach out to Mary Grace to see if she is available. She was a little reluctant to get involved with this. Some of the suggestions she made was to have a shorter period for accepting resumes. So that, as you recall, last time, we got PE teachers, we got all folks who didn't necessarily have the requisite experience, and it took the search committee days and days to go through those. So one of her suggestions was post it on the website, send it out to people that we know are interested, and then have a shorter time frame for acceptance of resumes. The other thing I would ask whether you want me to add to a proposed timeline that I bring back would be interviews, and whether you do want to do, as board members, individual interviews with candidates, or whether you want to do it in the sunshine with you all here and a candidate coming, because you can't, they would have to be publicly noticed if you have small groups of people with each candidate, or you can do it one by one outside of the sunshine. So the other things you would need to think of for the next board meeting is, do you want to accept resumes and then limit and tell us who to set up interviews with, and then bring it back? So I just want to give you food for thought, because Brian, that's a tight time frame between like February 15 and the March meeting to get in-person interviews set.
Yeah, in my experience, usually you would vet it down to like, the board would say, okay, these are the 3 or 4 we want to interview. So maybe that's the March thing, and then maybe we hire in April. But I think we can always schedule special board meetings. I remember when we hired Marcy, we did interviews, and we did them over at the SPC administrative office over here, and we all sat there for 8 hours and interviewed a bunch of people. Yeah. So I'm not sure that we want to do that again, but maybe if we get to the top 2 or 3, we want to interview those people, and I would definitely want to do it in public for sure, as a full board.
I just want to interject on that, and Judge Moore next, but if we're talking about timeframes and you're talking about not talking about it until next month, remember when our meeting is, you're talking about starting a timeframe in the middle of the holiday. That, you're gonna miss out, may potentially miss out people who should maybe apply, that may be out of town, out of the country for the holidays, or out of the state, whatever. I think we should consider that, and when we talk about timeframes, and we're talking about next month, we are in December, right? A lot of people take long-term holidays during Christmas time, so we should think about that when we set dates. Judge Moore, and then Ms. Malo, Judge Moore.
As a former member of the committee, because I did resign after the last meeting, I think we should have Commissioner Latvala play a part in this. And I resigned because at the time I had to, stop court in order to come to a meeting, and I didn't think it was fair to my children in court to come for a meeting. But I do believe that, I want to commend the committee, because the committee has always said to keep it transparent, to keep it open. And so I don't want anyone in the audience or anyone listening in thinking that the committee said anything else. I think that we wanted to bring it back to the board because we wanted to be respectful of everyone's opinion on the board, so that as a committee, then we would know what the next steps would be. And so Ms. Chia is right. It was not ripe at the last meeting because we did not have everyone here to have a voice. And this conversation is a great conversation today.
So the future board meetings are listed on the agenda, and so I think we have a pending motion, and I don't know if he's accepting amendments to that motion, but.
Yes. Any and all improvements are
I do think it's
welcome.
important, and I respect what the chair is saying about holiday seasons, but quite candidly, if someone's interested in this position, as I well know as the elected public defender, I work 24/7 every holiday there is. So to me, if you're really interested in this position, you're going to make your application, whether or not you're in Europe or on holiday or whatever. So what I would like to see in the amendment to the motion is that on December 18th, that the board approve the job description and opening it up to the public. On January 22nd, that any member of the board that wants to recommend, and I would say limit it to 3 candidates, that the board vote on 3 potential candidates, and that interviews are set up, and then by that February 19th date, and the realism of having those interviews between January 22nd and February 19th may be a little quick. So I would say by February 26th that the board vote on who the next permanent CEO would be.
That's a finance
That's only finance
committee.
committee. All right, I'll give it to March, because I think that the reality of setting up with 3 potential candidates and having. Correct, and so I think that I understand, but what I'd like to see is the job description and the job be opened on December 18th, on January 22nd, that if anybody has a candidate. And so I don't think that in coming up with those 3 candidates, for that January 22nd is something that, resumes would be, we'd open it up by January 22nd. I think you would have all resumes due, that's a good question, prior to the January 22nd, so what's a week prior to
So
that?
assuming you approve a job description December 18th, I mean, and this would all be aspirational, it could obviously be altered by you guys at the next
Sure.
board
We
meeting.
can
So
always change it.
December 18th, we would approve the job description, we would then post it, and you could have a closure date of, say, January 10 or 12, and then that would give us time to get you guys all packets to see, I mean, who knows, we may have 10, we may have 150 people apply, we just don't know.
I'd like to see Mary Grace kind of vet those and then give her.
I disagree with that. I absolutely disagree with that, because I think by vetting it, you are allowing some censure to it, and that is exactly what I don't want to happen.
My thought process was that we would receive all of them, and then she would just give her opinion. No?
You can talk to her about your opinion. I think each board member could talk to her independently about her opinion, but the concept that I have is that everybody has the opportunity, and then if you, as a board member, want to further talk to that person or follow up with that person, go through it yourself as a board member. I think that's part of our responsibility. And then if you have a candidate that you would like to see, on January 22nd, you bring forth to the board, this is a candidate that I've talked to, I've looked at, and that I would like for the board to consider. And I think there should be 3 of those spots.
And if we're gonna set dates right now, I respectfully ask that you set them for Fridays. As you know, I will be in session starting January 13th. So I would like to be here for these. It should be a full board involved in it. But at least on
agree.
Fridays, I potentially at least have the potential to come home on a Friday.
Yes, sir.
Even if I gotta leave at 4 o'clock in the morning to get here in time for it.
Right, and so let me ask a question to Attorney, I'm sorry, I'm out of order.
Yeah, Ms. Trunks is next, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm earnestly trying to move us forward on this today. I will just be completely candid. When we hired Mr. McCurrick as the interim, my recollection of the conversation, and this is on YouTube, so if I'm wrong, I can go back and watch it and be corrected. My recollection of the conversation was that his contract would go through January, and that the aspiration of the board was that we would have, the search would already be done. and that
Not
we-
to interrupt, it's March. It's March.
Right, but at the time, what Commissioner Latvala said was January, and I remember that very clearly. And so what I'm telling you is what my expectation was. My expectation in June was that the search would be done by now, and that we would be in the process of hiring. So I have a sense of urgency to get this done. I also am practical enough to know that if we sit here trying to figure out everybody's calendars for the next 4 months, we're never gonna be out of this meeting. So that's why when I originally made the motion, I gave some flexibility to Colleen and to the staff to work over the next month to come back with a time frame, understanding, the sense of urgency that my expectation was that hopefully we would have this hire done in the March timeframe. Also understanding that the board can always extend things if we need to for any kind of practical reason, and also my commitment that Commissioner Latval will be a meaningful part of this process. So if it's acceptable, just to keep this conversation moving and to give some stability and some certainty to the public, our stakeholders, and our employees, I think the motion is for the staff to come back at the December 18th meeting with a process and a time frame and a job description for us to approve, with the goal of hopefully having a final approval in, March or April at the latest. And that's just direction, not, definitive. And I think that's simple enough to keep it moving. And then we can maybe have a more organized conversation about dates and stuff and interviews at the next
Okay.
meeting.
Is that your
Process as
motion?
well.
Is that
Yes.
your motion?
I
So,
second.
we have a second, do we have a second for his motion?
I'll second the motion, Sarah Muller.
Okay, so now we're back in discussion. Mr. Hendrick,
Can you state your motion again?
Yeah, okay.
It's a mouthful.
The motion is, I move to direct the staff, including Attorney Flynn, to come back at the December 18th meeting with a job description and a time frame for hiring the next CEO, permanent CEO, with the aspirational goal of having the process complete by either the March 18th or April 23rd meeting at the latest.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, Sarah Muller.
we're in discussion. Mr. Hendrick, you were next.
Thank you, Sarah, for bringing it forward. I thought you did a really good job summarizing. I do like using the board meetings as good markers for that timeline. One of the things I was pretty adamant about in the committee meetings, the search committee meetings, was the background screenings and checks for candidates and final candidates. And what was clear to us in that conversation is JWB really does not have the resources to go beyond a criminal background check and things, regular hiring. My concern was more looking financial, political, all the other things that could bring disrepute to the organization if we don't do a thorough background check. And so, Colleen, I know you heard that multiple times from multiple committee members. And I just hope at December 18th, we can have a conversation related to, I support everything everybody said. I have no problem going through 8 or 8,000 resumes. I can discern them on my own. I can find 3 candidates I think are worthy of interviewing. We can figure all that out. But at the end of the day, we still need a process to vet people's backgrounds.
Correct. And I, even last time, there was an outside provider that did some of the background screening when Ms. Houghton was hired. And so I can reach out to the search committees that we've already spoken with and ask them for just a suggested price or a quote on just doing the background screenings on the 3 folks that you guys want to do the interviews for. And then that would just be an additional cost, and you could approve hiring them to do those screenings.
Ms. Muller, we're still in discussion.
Can you help guide me on what the availability and, because dates, when you have 11 people that are, in high positions, getting their schedules is next to impossible. So what are our rules on appearing remotely or by Zoom?
You have to appear in person if it's a sunshine meeting where you are going to have more than one of you present, which is why a lot of times for public entities, when they're interviewing people, the board members interview them one-on-one. So a candidate can meet each of you individually. That does not have to be sunshine noticed, publicly noticed. You could meet the candidate by phone. You could meet the candidate by Zoom, whatever works for you. In the past, we've set up, like Brian was explaining, chunks of time, and it was one-on-one. And so let's say Ms. Chia's schedule allowed her to be here from 10 to 12. She could have the 3 candidates come in and meet her between 10 and 12. They can move on, round table whenever you guys are available, or like I said, Zoom or phone, you can do it that way. If you want to have group interviews with a candidate, those have to be publicly noticed and in the sunshine, and because the Tampa Bay Times only publishes twice a week, that we need 12 days, I look at Olivia, but it's 10 to 12 days now to get the thing to the Tampa Bay Times and then to get it posted with 7 days. So it's a little more difficult when we have a meeting to get you all together.
And then what is the availability of sending a designee? Does the designee in this type of situation have the ability to convey what the board member's vote would be on certain items on that?
Yeah, you cannot do that under the sunshine. You as a board member have to be here.
Okay, any other discussion?
I just wanted to echo that I think throughout the search committee process and today, I think we all share kind of the same sense of urgency and certainly the same desire to have this be a process that we can all stand behind. So, I mean, the good news is that I think we all agree on the most important part of it, and the discussion that we're having is only about timeframes. I'm inclined to agree with Mr. Unks that we need to, I think there needs to be a little space and a little bit of flexibility for that timeline. I would agree with the timeline that he laid out. I think I share his very earnest sense of urgency. I think that we've let it sit, and that a lot of the legwork has been done. But I would like, I have the general sense that if we do it in this manner, there will be less applications than there would be otherwise. And I have the sense that the applications would tend to be of more qualified people because they are coming from recommendations or people that are directly hearing about the position as opposed to, oh, I saw it on LinkedIn and then I hit apply and it went out, and I taught middle school one time. So I believe that it's something that we can all handle. I think that it's something that we should do, and certainly Mr. Latvala should be involved. I know we all would like him to be here. That was it. here. And yeah, so I would agree with what Mr. Ungst has laid out in terms of timeline, and yeah, that's all.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, all in favor for the motion? Aye? Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
And Mr. Chair, now Ernest has to go to work, so I will see you all.
All right, thank you. Next up's our CEO's report.
Just, Brian, right before you leave, again, I think I appreciate what you just did. I think it makes valid sense. It needs to be out in the front of everybody so that it's clear, and hopefully it'll stop some of the misinformation that's going out there. Sarah, I think you as well both looked at the fact that I wasn't thrown off the board, that I was released from the board as after my 12 years of time here. Also, the other parts are, it also proved that there has been no collusion in trying to come up with who might be there, at least not from my perspective. There might be others. I'm a little concerned about the representative making these phone calls, but that's clear that you'll make the decision, and I really appreciate the board really focusing in on making the right decision going forward. I am committed to all of you that I will continue to do what I'm doing, and I will continue to develop and focus in on building the foundation, creating the organization, and making sure it's working properly for whomever it might be that will take on this role, and I will apply. So that gives you my front end part of that. So please go to work. Okay, so let me move on to my report. Yes. Yeah. No. And I will start with that because you have my 150-day report. As I nimbly give you my updates on each of those. If there are any questions, any comments, I'm sure that you will be asking them, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. Robbie, I'd like you to please make an announcement because I think it's an extremely important one for everyone to hear.
Thank you, Mr. McCurrack. Wanted to announce, we found out late yesterday, a Certificate of Achievement of Excellence in Financial Reporting. And this is awarded by the Government Finance Officer Association. That's an acronym for GFOA. You hear that kind of used loosely. That's the main body for government finance officers. It's recognized. What's the significance of this? The significance is this. It's the highest form of recognition in government accounting and financial reporting. So it's a big deal. And it demonstrates a commitment to transparency and accountability, my words, really like that, in financial reporting. The background of this, JWB first received this award in FY19, so it's been a track record, no pressure on me at all, but we've got to hit that every year. A plaque's usually given, and we haven't gotten that yet. We just got notification yesterday. The award criteria and process, I'll just go over it really quick, is there's an application that we submit through our annual comprehensive financial report, along with our application. And then it's evaluated by impartial experts in government accounting. And they're judged against 17 different criteria established by GFOA. And then the focuser review ensures that JWB demonstrates a constructive spirit of full disclosure. And the outcome to this, the goal is to clearly communicate JWB's financial story to its stakeholders, which are Pinellas County. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
That's amazing work. Thank you, Robbie. Congratulations to you and your staff. I believe this is 8 years running, correct?
This is beginning. I think it's 7, and now it's
7
going to
years.
8. But I think what's really important is as a board member, when Lynn was doing this, I made the comment, and I will make it again. That is more awards than any Super Bowl champion has ever won. If anyone would like to see them, the current awards, and they're actually in the hallway over by HR. There are actually statues that show that our team has been not only diligent, but has been a leader in this space. So if anybody has questions about financing, anybody has questions about how we account for things, it's been awarded. The award is here, has been proven that we hold ourselves to the highest standards in public accounting. So again, Robbie, that's,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Robbie, and your team. Shows that we are doing a great job handling our taxpayer dollars, and we are doing the right thing with it. And I just want to say thank you again, and we appreciate everything you guys do. Ms. Malo?
But yeah, you had really large shoes to fill. The previous finance director was just impeccable, and I was, floored by it. And I feel like I'm Team Robbie today, but I really am. Because to watch you in action and to see your standards and the professionalism that you bring to the job is just, I'm very, very impressed, and congratulations on the award. They can be very detail-oriented and really be critical of things, so to achieve this award is a really high achievement, and I think that is, you're responsible for that.
And I think
So,
kudos need
thank
to go
you.
not only to Robbie, but to his team.
For
Because his
sure,
team has
yeah.
just been amazing.
But it takes a good leader to have a good team.
And so I expect, and what I really want to do is to be prepared to, we need to publicize this dramatically out, get it out on all the social media sites as well, because it really is a fantastic award, and you deserve recognition for it. Okay.
Thank you, and Mr. McCurrick, I'd just like to mention that, these awards are absolutely a big deal, and I certainly appreciate the recognition, but it's also a reflection of the organization. Accounting is post. This is what's happened in the past, and what we do throughout the year impacts how we end up the end of the year. So that's a credit to this whole organization, its leadership, certainly. The accounting folks, they have their important part in that. I do as well, but it is a collective effort for all of us.
Thank you. So to stay on with my report, we had an amazing event last week, I think it was. Over 600 parents, 600 fathers brought their kids to a center I didn't even know existed somewhere in Clearwater, which was which housed amazing antique cars, and the property was just beautiful. Everyone came out. It was a Turbo Babies event as well, so there were Turbo Baby races. You'll see more of that again on Facebook and Instagram and others. So it is, I think it was just, to me, what was most valuable is there were over 600 parents with their kids that came to this event, showing that young people are really beginning to, not just beginning, but are really focusing in on the needs and understanding the value that JWB can bring, the value of our Turbo Babies program, and the value of being a parent who really focuses on the belonging of their children. So to me, it was just amazing. I've got a couple other announcements that I really want to make, and this one I believe is probably one of the major announcements that we will be making and will be getting out to the public. I believe last month we talked about Parent ProTech, and Parent ProTech is a tool that'll help parents help their children to keep them safe. It'll also aid law enforcement to ensure that we're really focusing in on their efforts to stop human trafficking, online predating. And JWB is committed to helping protect every child in this community across our county and keeping them safe from these criminals. When we were kids, you taught your child, don't talk to strangers, don't go up to cars, don't take candy. Well, now it's all online and internet issues that we're dealing with. So this is going to be extremely important. It provides that safety net, and it helps parents better understand what they can do, how they can protect their children, and it teaches them, provides them with lessons, shows them how to not only protect their children, but also protect the systems in which they operate on, and gives them signals as to when to know if a child is being engaged. What we've done is we've met with law enforcement, including Chief of Police from St. Petersburg, from Clearwater, but most importantly, we met with the sheriff as well. Bruce has been brought on, Sarah has been brought on to this. The sheriff is now is ready to participate, and what's important, I think, in this process is he's willing to and will hold a PSA. We will do it at his office. We're working on the final dates. It'll probably be in early December that we'll be having this announcement made out, and it's clearly to let the parents know that not only are we helping them, is JWB bringing help to protect them, but it's free of charge to them. They'll be able to go onto a site, which we will set up. It'll have all the information for them. We'll be asking for very minimal information, such as their name, email address, optional phone number, and what zip code they come from, so that we ensure it's coming out of Pinellas County, because that's how it becomes free for their access. We've also talked to Senator Moody's office, who is ecstatic about it, and will either participate personally or she'll provide a video and/or letter in support of the efforts. We've talked to Representative Bilirakis, who has a bill going in actually on December 2nd that is really there to focus in on protecting children and making the internet providers accountable. His office is very involved and wants to participate, and he wants to see how in the future he can reach out further to his constituents, as well as we all know, he's not Pinellas County, but he lives in Pinellas County. We're reached out to Congressman Luna to get her involvement. We've also talked to Congresswoman Castor. We're meeting with every municipality within Pinellas County, the county commission, as well as each mayor. We'll be also speaking at multiple events across the chambers, through Kiwanis clubs. We've got ELC. I can continue on with all the organizations, but we have a full list that will be shared. I think, in fact, it's in your packet. Judge, I sent this off to you earlier. These are the organizations that we'll be going after to participate with us, so we can maximize the amount of reach to the parents of Pinellas County to ensure that they can focus in and protect their children from this atrocious process of trying to get to our children and in harming them. So be prepared. You'll hear more about it as we get closer to that time frame. We do want to make sure that this is a huge rollout, so that everyone in Pinellas County has access and know that we're here to protect their children, and it's brought to you by JWB. That'll be the end of my report.
All right, thank you. Anything under the information items anybody would like to bring up? All right, seeing none, we have a public comment.
We do have 3 cards.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to thank Mr. McCurrack for taking the lead on that program, as it's super important, and this community needs it, so appreciate your efforts on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call these. I don't know if they're still here. The first person was Dr. Deborah Dowd, D-O-U-D. Okay, the second card we had was from Charles Worston. Okay, and the third card we had was from Cynthia Wigglehouse. Okay, so it appears that they've all left. We'll keep their cards for posterity.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Bartlett, announce our anniversaries.
All right, you ready? Victor Sino, 2 years. Braxton Everett, 2 years. Alicia Henson, 2 years. Giselle Feliciano, 3 years. Sarah Fairbanks, 3 years. Becca Teeter, 4 years. Melissa Orquist, 11 years. And Quinn Fan, 14 years.
Hey, thank you. Okay, and that will adjourn our meeting. Thank you.